I always used to think that big watches just weren't going to work for me. I mean, I'm sharing with you a massive watch. I mean, this is designed, according to PHOIBOS, to be for the larger or taller person, or sometimes both. Now, is this something that's going to interest you? I think it's worth sticking around because initially I thought this watch would be just too big for me. I like something a little bit more slimline and elegant, but there's some surprises along the way with this piece. So let's delve deeper and see what we find. Now, I had to do a sillier intro because my imagination was running wild because it's called Leviathan. It's a big beast of a watch. It's actually probably the most intimidating watch I've ever seen and held and reviewed because there's so many aspects, which I think are definitely making this a bit of a beast. So here's a 15-second movie I made. It's totally pathetic and useless, but anyway. Oh. So now you've had my silly bit of creative spin on this. You're going to need to know the stats and specs, so let's have a look at that. So a bit like owning a Range Rover, most people are never going to take it off-road. Just like this watch, 500 meters water resist, you're never really going to go down that deep. First of all, that's kind of a pointless depth. The fact it has a helium escape valve as well, pointless because you're not going to go saturation diving. And if you do, this is a watch for you, fantastic. But it's one of those gadgety kind of things. There's more to this piece than meets the eye. Where do I think this watch has succeeded? I know a lot of people actually skip past the good bit. I want to know about things you should be aware of, but I'm going to go through that. So the things I want to start with, which I have been impressed with by wearing this watch a lot and having some good time with it, I'll start with little details, which I think are definitely things that you could easily miss just from first glance. First of all, the hands. I'm going to have a little bit of a closer look. These hands, they've got a lovely satin finish, as do all the indices. That helps bring this watch into being very tallish, and that's why I feel it makes it look a bit sinister, because there's no bling on here. It's just very angular and aggressive in terms of how everything has been finished. It's matte, everything's matte. There's nothing bling at all anywhere on it. And that really gives it a whole different aesthetic and a different dynamic, which is, I think, is really cool. And that's something I do like. And that moves on to the angular design of everything, really. First of all, this is chunky angular crown. Look at this K-shape, these lugs. They look like they've been hewn from marble or granite and just chiseled. And all the corresponding brushing that goes with these parts, so unbelievably well done. I mean, it's beautifully straight and neat, and there's nothing sharp on it. You'd think you'd look at it and it'd just be slicing bits of your wrist off and it'd be like a lethal weapon, but it's not. It works in terms of how all the angular aspects work together and give this a beastly appearance. And I just think the only downside that I know I'm talking about negatives in with the positives is these sort of sliced out pieces here of the rotating bezel, they should go all the way around, because you do have some slippery points when you're trying to turn it. You have these parts here, as you see, it's just very smooth, and initially it's quite a stiff bezel action, and that's something to be aware of. But the general spec is a positive. You've seen the stats and specs, but I do like the fact you get a lot for your money. You get BGW9, all stainless steel, a good quality rubber strap on here, and NH35, although bland as hell, it's functional and does the job. Date complication, and it's got AR coated sapphire, which it looks like it's going to be a chunky bit of sapphire in there, because as you can see, I think what they've done is clever with the sort of beveled edge on it to help stop it just looking a bit too slab and a bit plain. So that's clever. And this case back design, I love it. I just love the Kraken. It really just adds a bit of interest. There's no point having exhibition case back, especially on a deep sea diver like this one. There's no point. There's no point looking at a boring movement. I like the fact you've got a bit of black attached. I like the fact you've got something which just adds a bit of classy design and reinforces the branding, as you have on here as well, on the gorgeous crown. And I like the black that's been put in the etching on the back here to help you actually read that easily. So all these little details, which I love. Sunburst brushing as well, really good. Now this obviously is a great watch for big wrists. I'm going to put it on my average for a man-sized wrist and show you how it looks on me, and then help you gauge if it's just going to be inappropriate for you. Absolute monster. It is huge. I mean, I know I keep saying that, but it is. It's meant to be. It's like, it's not criticism, it's positive and a negative. I mean, I can get away with it just about. It is a long watch. As you can see, it's filling my whole wrist. And I've used right down here, there's only 3 more adjustments here. And then there's all this. Obviously it's great if you've got a massive wrist, or you can wear it on a wetsuit or something like that. But downside, I'll move on to that now, is this rubber strap is so thick. Look at this. And downside to that is it's actually really awkward to get this strap off. Yeah, that was hard to get out on and off. It really is. And then really got to be a beast of a human to get this watch on and off. So it's not just aesthetically intimidating, just getting the bloody thing on is intimidating. So I have a solution for that. I'm just going to slip in here. I haven't worn this much on this strap because it did get on my nerves, and I found it made the watch a little bit uncomfortable. I couldn't quite get the right fitment for me with the spacing of these holes for some reason, even though they're really close together. I just couldn't get it to fit me. So I'm going to show you what I've been wearing it on, and has actually made it significantly more easy to wear and more comfortable and more appropriate for me. Now here comes the plot twist. So this is the plot twist. Just a simple strap change. I know you're going to think, oh, he sells straps, that's why he's biased, he's saying this. I sell straps for one of these reasons, and that is the fact you can change a strap out and make a watch go from being a little bit uncomfortable to fitting you perfectly. Obviously I have the luxury of having all these in stock and I can look and try loads on, but I can then pass that on to you. The benefit of the doubt is you have got a strap here which conforms to the wrist better, is not so long, still got plenty of adjustment here for getting bigger or smaller, and it's still a really good quality graded rubber, but it makes the watch fit me personally with a 7-inch wrist really comfortably. I went for blue just to contrast, because that's the other negative. I think black on black and all this, I know it's a very matte finish watch, but it just makes it a bit too dull. A little bit more colour would be welcome. I like the little bit of red text on the dial for automatic, but that is the only colour on this, and the lume obviously being blue. But I'm really happy with putting the Tempest, an appropriate name, Tempest Leviathan, combination made in heaven. So back on the standard strap again, I'm going to just tell you that I didn't like the stiff bezel action, to be honest. It's a little bit too stiff for my liking, but it has loosened up over time. And it's a bit slippery, as I mentioned before. Imagine you're in the water and trying to turn this, even with gloves on, it would be a little bit awkward and slippery. I think if you're going to make a big chunky diver, make the bezel that you're going to use for timing your rising from the depths, if you will, to be a bit easier to turn. That's an important thing to me. The movement as well, that's dull. I think if you're paying £200 to £300 for a dive watch, I don't always want to just have an NH35. 500 meters, you may not be able to cope with that, but I'm pretty damn sure it would, because this thing is alarmingly well reinforced. It's got double gaskets in here, gaskets in there, sealed in ultra thick crystal. It's going to take it, but I think it'd be exciting if you had a beast of a movement in there as well. I don't know what that would be. Suggestions would be awesome, but I think NH35, the fact you can get it in something that's just almost a throwaway item from AliExpress, up to something like this, it's just a bit boring. I'm getting fed up with them. Even though they're great, don't get me wrong, I just think we can have something a bit more interesting. This is definitely not for smaller wrists. It will weigh you down. It'll be intimidating to wear because it's just, you'll really notice it. Very top heavy. This weighs the same as my Oris, a 300 meter diver with a bracelet, 43mm, all stainless steel, and it weighs exactly the same as this massive beast. But at least the weight distribution of my Oris, because it's a lot slimmer, is better with the bracelet as well. So this does feel a little bit top heavy, rattling around on this part of your wrist. Well, yeah, it hits that bone a bit. So that's why if you get the fitment right with your bracelet or strap, you don't really notice it knocking on that bone. And when it's top heavy, you notice it clonking against your bone and dislocate your wrist. And they sell out so blooming fast. It is ridiculous how fast they sell. So if you go, well, I like the black one, sold out maybe. Okay, I'll get the green one. Oh no, that's sold out. Get the blue one. You guessed it. Sold out. They're popular for a reason. They're beautifully well made watches, but I still would like something like this to have a little bit more pizzazz. This could be made of titanium, bring the weight down, up the price a bit, maybe swap the movement out, something a bit more interesting, have some more interesting, unusual colorways. Have a pearl dial, it's a deep sea diver, have a blue pearly dial or something like that, just to mix it up a bit. That's what I'm thinking. But if you want a mean looking, angry beast of a watch, you can't go wrong with this. Happy days. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.